This week on Gymwright Live, we interview Firepower Kids co-owners Jackie and Stewart Clark to learn how to build a successful kids program at your gym. But before we get into that, I would like to give a warm thank you to SiteRight.io as our official sponsor for this show. Every gym owner deserves a great website, and now there is no excuse not to have one. Upgrade your online presence by heading over to SiteRight.io. Also, if you aren't already a member of the network, our free private Facebook group, you are missing out. With almost 1,800 motivated gym owners, along with our team of growth specialists in there, you will find tons of great conversations, live weekly Q&A sessions with yours truly, the video version of these episodes, as well as step-by-step how-tos of some of the most effective strategies out there for gym owners today. Simply go to vip.gymwright.com to get access right away. By the way, this will also get you access to our free sales and marketing planner for those of you who don't have it yet. And hopefully that'll help you make this the best year of your business yet. I hope to see you in there. All right, let's get this party started. Hello and welcome to this week's episode of Gymwright Live. I am your host, Marcus Gurzy, and this week we welcome to the show Jackie and Stewart Clark of Firepower Kids in Ontario, Canada. Over the course of the past 9 or so years now, they have successfully started and scaled their kids program to a level that most gym owners would only hope to ever be able to achieve. So without further ado, Stewart, Jackie, welcome to the show, guys.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Nice to see you.
Awesome. Yes, pleasure to have you guys on. This whole show really stemmed from a post that I put up in the network, I think maybe a month and a half ago or so, where I was asking about people who are running successful programs. And I actually got to speak with quite a few gym owners all over the world in different shapes and sizes. And your guys' story really stood out to me. So thank you guys for taking the time and coming on here and being willing to share your journey with our audience.
It's a pleasure.
Absolutely.
We're excited.
Yeah.
Awesome. So today you're going to be giving us kind of the ins and outs of starting and building a successful kids program, along with, I'm sure, some of the war stories of the many challenges that you guys had to overcome to get here. But before we get into that stuff, tell us a little bit about yourselves and how you guys got started with Firepower Kids. How long have you guys been doing this?
Well, I think it started back, like Stuart and I have always been active. We found CrossFit years ago, just about when the kids were born. We have 2 boys. And so we were avid CrossFitters. And then right after the kids were born, our 2 boys, after the second one, we were both working in the corporate world. They were going to daycare. We were both traveling. And we started talking about a change in our lifestyle because we were not seeing the kids. They were at daycare for really, really long hours of the day. Loved my job. We loved our jobs, but knew we wanted to make a change and knew that I didn't want to just stop working. So we were trying to come up with an idea on how to incorporate fitness and CrossFit, also having the flexibility of being with the kids. And we have really good friends that are gym owners. And we just started talking about different ideas. And they had at that time a very small kids program. And so what came out of conversation was, I'm going to leave my job. I'm going to come in and I'm just going to blow this kids program up and own it and run it and manage it as this own sort of business entity. Mm-hmm. And that's sort of how we started back in 2013.
Yeah, so the kids program had been in existence for a few years at in the adult facility, which is Reebok CrossFit Firepower. But like many owners, I know we're going to talk about a number of things, but they struggle to grow just based off of available floor space, time of the day, how do you share space, etc. The typical challenges that all gym owners have as it relates to finding time for kids. And so our model that we love talking about it, so we're pleased that you invited us. Our model is different, and it's proven to be really successful. So I think that's what I think we're excited to really delve into.
Awesome, thank you. Yeah, I want to kind of unpack that a little bit here really quickly. The model piece that you guys had said. So, you guys currently you're an extension of Reebok CrossFit Firepower, right? And it's actually its whole own kind of standalone business that you guys own. You're partnered with them. And you're actually in your own building next door to their main facility, correct?
Yeah, so how it works is, from a customer's perspective, we are one entity. We're combined. We share a brand name. Ours is obviously designated by a kid's label. But we, as you said, we are independent from an operational perspective and from a space perspective. So it's one building that is separated into two distinct spaces. So we have separate exterior entrances. So, from the moment the child walks in, they're in their own dedicated space. There is a shared interior door. And that's essentially just based off the nature of the relationship. There's a ton of crossover, adults to kids, kids to adults, and it's a fluid back and forth. But from the perspective of the business, it is independent of each other, and but built to be entirely complementary to each other.
Yeah, I think it's important to point this out because it's, a lot of the people watching or listening are, probably thinking, hey, I've got my gym, whether small or large. When you're starting a program like this, it's typically going to start within the four walls of your facility, usually during off hours or however it starts, which we'll get into all that stuff here in a bit. But you guys from the get-go already, did you guys start in that shared space or did you start with a standalone space right away?
Well, the kids program started on the floor of the adult gym. It was a time slot in the evenings where an adult class would finish, kids would go on, they'd do their class, go off, and then the adults would come back on. So that's how it started. And then when space became available right next door, that's when we came in and took that separate space at that time. And then we also then have since moved location to a standalone building where it was actually one huge open space where we built a brick wall to divide the gym spaces up. So we had our own space.
Yeah.
Got it. Okay, so you guys grew into this, and it didn't start this way because, again, important distinction here. It started that way, like everyone's programs start. But you guys then, as the program grew, and I think you guys started to see how that would be beneficial in more ways than one. You then separated it up. Okay. So
it's just the one point on that, Marcus, is you're never going to get to a point where you're really fully ready financially or scale of kids business to take that leap. You kind of have to. It's a leap for a reason. You have to take it.
For sure.
We saw the potential. We knew the market was there. The current structure, it was impossible to grow it to a scale that we thought would be possible. So when the opportunity for an adjacent space became available, was the program ready for that amount of space? No, but we had to do it because it would never ever get to a point where it was able to sustain it unless we actually took that leap. But it wasn't done. It wasn't done irresponsibly. It was done very calculated with a very, it was done on a time when we knew we could have some, high revenue opportunities around camps and things like that, which also then served as a lead into our sort of ongoing regular recurring programming. So it was done strategically, but I would suggest the program, if you looked at it purely as on a P&L perspective or just on paper, it wouldn't have warranted that step, but that step was required to be able to ultimately move forward.
Yeah, there was one other point that sort of came into the decision making was as the kids program in that initial state was growing, so was the adult membership base. So they needed to add more time slots and more classes to the adult gym.
Good point.
So then there was a decision of, do we cut the kids class so we can put the adult class in because they need more classes?
Sure.
And then it just all happened at the same time that, you know what, if the kids have their own separate space, then the adult membership can grow at the same time as the kids membership because we're not going to be fighting for floor space and equipment and use and coaches.
Yeah, I mean, that makes a lot of sense. And Stu, to your point, about, were we ready? Not really. But it was the required step to enable the opportunity of,
That's right.
that was really the point of the whole project,
Mhm.
right? And I mean, I think that resonates with all of us, right? I mean, it's like that in all of our businesses when we start. It's like, hey,
Yeah.
it's not really warranted when we're taking these steps to level up and whatnot. But we use our, we do our homework and we try to do the math and we do the best that we can and make an educated
Right.
guess.
Yeah.
But most of us aren't exactly sitting on a big pile of cash when we start these kinds of things to where we can just make it happen. But we do because we see something, right? So good for you guys for taking the leap. So tell us a little bit about where the program is today. Like what does it look like today?
Yeah, sure. So, when we first started, when we're talking about way back at the beginning of time, we had two age groups. There was a CrossFit Kids, I think it was called Little Pups at the time, and it was ages 5 to 9, and there were about 6 kids in that program. And there was a Big Dogs group, which was 10 to 14-year-olds, and again, around 6 to 8 kids in that group. And so today we ran the numbers.
Yeah, so I think we're at all in members 230-ish.
230
in
members.
that range.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's a lot of kids.
Ages of 3 to 14.
And that's 3 to 14.
Yeah.
Three
And
to
again,
14.
Yes.
That's right. Yeah. Now our adult partner has you look at sort of the evolution and the what happens to kids post 14. Well, they transition through that interior door to the adjacent facility, and then they become part of the older varsity program, and then from the varsity program ultimately graduate into the adult program. So it's really sort of holistically integrated to ensure that you hold them and you keep them and you grow them, right?
Yeah, I equate it to, and again, we're Canadian, so I'm going to talk Canadian terms here. But when an eighth grader or someone in grade 8 goes to grade 9 or goes into high school, they get a tour of the high school, and it's really scary and intimidating with all these big kids. And we have sort of that transition period where they've been in the kids' gym, which is full on kids. It looks different, it feels different, the energy is different. And then if they've been there for 5+ years, going to the other side can be scary and intimidating. So going into sort of a teen program or a varsity program is sort of that transition zone from, elementary school to high school, or from junior varsity to senior varsity before then they go to the adults. So, we kind of hold their hand throughout the way and make that transition a little bit easier for them.
Yeah.
Awesome. I mean, that's pretty ideal. I mean, as a dad myself, when I think of, all the different programs for sports and all that sort of thing, I mean, you hope that your kid finds something that they fall in love with, that's good for them and has, a nice path for them with, that they can love their sport and do their thing. And when it comes to fitness, that's pretty hard to find. It's all pretty fragmented in our communities usually, where it's like, I'm going to have them at this program at the YMCA and then, this summer camp over there. And it's just kind of all over the place. And the fact that you guys have created an actual path where they're going to grow up in
That's
fitness
right.
from, basically 3 years old to the rest of their life if they wanted to, right? They're in a community that is thoughtfully taking them through all of these different stages and preparing them and all that, which is, I think, just super, super cool. So, all right. So I wanted to ask you guys, why should gym owners even consider creating a kids program at their gym? What are some of the benefits?
Yeah, I like that question a lot. We've got different perspectives and thoughts on it. You asked me when we first started, it was personal reasons. I wanted a place for my family and my kids to grow up in that was active and healthy and all about fitness, because that's a passion of ours. So that's, that was a selfish reason. So if there's gym owners either that have children that want that for them, that could be, an initial thought. And then truthfully, what evolved out of that is just, magic. And I get all emotional because there's amazing things that happen in those walls that you don't even expect. So, and I could sit here forever that could give you story after story. Are we still on?
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's something that came up on the screen.
No, we're good. You guys are good to go.
We're good. Okay. All right. I'm gonna keep talking even though we can't see anything that's going on here. So the magic just happens with these kids. We had kids that come in that would just, never look anyone in the eye, head held down, like cried in the corner. You could tell that their parents were forcing them to be there. They've been to gymnastics down the street or hockey or soccer, and they just don't like sport. And then they come back a second day, and it's like, you came back? Okay, this is a win. We're onto something here. And then 2 weeks later, they're standing a little taller. A month later, they're leading the class. 3 years later, they're doing public speeches about doing hang power cleans. Like, I'm not making this stuff up. This is really what's happening. So if your gym owners have that sort of spark in them to want to change a life, to create and nourish and stir the pot of health and fitness in kids, like that in itself is reward, personal reward, and also giving on to others. So you talk to me and I'm going to talk emotional and passionate all day. You talk to this guy and it's a little more business.
Inferring that I don't share those same sentiments and that I'm an animal, there's practicality to it. I support everything you just said. I feel the same. I'm not going to cry. But the reality is the kids segment can, we know what it's like to be a small business owner. We also know the optics when people do the quick math of my membership is what, and I see this many people in the gym. You guys must be making a fortune. But we know the realities of what it's like and all the hidden costs and the between in running a business. A kids segment is a really meaningful incremental revenue stream that supports everything else that surrounds it. If you can leverage some common expenses between staffing and spacing and insurance and systems, you have this massive audience segment that can really turn a struggling or break-even business into a highly profitable business if done properly. And that's really probably the biggest message. We touched on it earlier. You're also creating like a long play acquisition strategy because you have these kids and they enter at a certain age, but if you look at the lifetime value of these kids over time, you've allowed them to grow up within your facility, within your values. And while they might move away, if they move back, they're going to come back to you. So like there's a long play to it. And the last piece of it is as much as the relationship between the adult and the kids facility is beneficial, because obviously, adults control where the kids go. The number of times that we bring kids in, and we'll talk about some of the incremental things that we do outside of our basic programming. But, kids equals parents, parents equals prospective new members for the adult facility. And it becomes a bit of a cycle that plays in on itself. So it's not only a long play acquisition in terms of your current member, but it's also a fantastic acquisition strategy as it relates to gaining adult members, parents of kids who have no immediate affiliation to fitness. So there's a lot of benefits to it, but it doesn't come easy. Don't get me wrong, but once you get to a certain threshold, that proverbial tipping point of P&L, it becomes truly upside that exponentially grows on itself.
Yeah, I mean, what you, Jackie, just kind of start with what you said. I mean, it's that impact, that we get to make, and those moments you get to create and all that. I mean, if you, for those of us who get into this business because we want to make an impact, which is most. Right? I don't think there's many people who get in the gym business being like, what, I'm just going for maximum dollars. It's usually because we experienced a change, or and we want to provide that for other people, or we know that we can do better and so on. And, when you work with kids like that, I mean, talk about like actually affecting the trajectory of our like country or planet for that matters, like health and wellness and understanding of nutrition and fitness and what it actually can be, and that it can be this positive thing and not this thing to be afraid of. I mean, you're speaking my language with that, because that's at the end of the day why we do what we do, is to help people like you guys and gym owners who are trying to make that impact. And a kids program is like directly to the root of the issue, right? When we get people as adults, we're cleaning up everything prior to us.
Yeah,
right?
sure.
We're dealing with all the mental and emotional baggage and misinformation and injuries and all the things that, probably largely could have been avoided altogether had they have had the right upbringing in fitness and wellness and all that, and had, learned how to eat right and move right from the beginning, and can now do many more things and have fun. So your message really resonated with me on that.
Yeah.
And as far as, the opportunity for the business, I mean, if we're just talking, from a strategy standpoint, I mean, it is a really good way to get into your, for one, to that life cycle piece that you talked about. But also, I think, as gym owners, as small business owners in our local markets, and we're in a relationship-based business, right? Relationship service business on top of that. We are, we always are trying to expand our reach and get access to more people. And a lot of gym owners struggle to do that. We've talked about it in a variety of different ways on this show. And, and I'm not saying to start a kids program for this reason, but one of the side effects of running a good kids program is exactly what you said. Kids bring in parents. That's how they're being brought there. That's who's paying for it. That's who's making the decision. And guess what? You know what parents love more than anything on earth? When you taking good care of their kids and doing something positive. And a lot of parents, I've seen this happen firsthand more times than I can count, is that the parents go having no intention of signing up. And then they get to know the coach and the vibe, and they're like, I'm kind of interested in what you can do maybe for me and my husband or wife, and it grows, it goes both ways, right? So either you have adults and they have kids, and now you can take care of them as well, or kids and bringing in their parents, which again, parents are looking for this. We want, places for our kids to go that are going to be positive and run by people who care and know what they're doing, and, can make that like serious permanent impact in our kids' lives, right? Especially those of us who are coaches and have been in this a long time. It's like, I'm not sending my kid to some dunce down the street. I'm going to be very selective about who I'm working with. And when you do find someone good, it builds a lot of trust quickly, right? And if you are known as the person who takes care of everyone's kids in the community and does all this really cool work with them, and I mean, you kind of have a red carpet rolled out to the rest of your business for the adults at the same time.
That's right. Yeah, I think we fully agree with everything you just said.
Oh, we agree. Yeah, we agree. We see
everything.
it. Yeah, absolutely.
All right. So I know a question everyone's dying to hear, which is part of what I was reaching out to you guys initially for, was, how are your programs structured? As in, like, what are the offerings or membership types? Seasonal versus evergreen, membership options. Just kind of walk us through maybe what you offer and how you got to that, because this is where I think a lot of people with kids programs are really, they have a lot of question marks around, well, what actually works better? And because you guys have so many reps on your, under your belt, I'd love to hear what you have and how you got there.
So when we first started, it was purely CrossFit Kids. And to this day, we are still primarily offering CrossFit programming as our youth fitness option.
Okay.
Also, in our community, we have a very high boxing community. And so we introduced and acquired youth boxing. So we also offer CrossFit Kids, CrossFit preteen, and then youth boxing. And then also we have a family connection who has a strong background in the circus arts. Everything from juggling, so hand-eye coordination, to stilt walking, to aerial acrobatics. So we infuse some circus fitness into our programming as well. So those were sort of the three pillars when we first started. now, as do other gyms. Like as you grow, then those pillars change and offerings kind of come and go. And some have gone and some we've reintroduced based on current trends. So current trends are ninja training, and anyone wants to be the next American Ninja Warrior. And so we have some ninja training classes where kids can come in and they're rope climbing and they're hanging on the bar and they're walking on balance beams and they're climbing walls and jumping over walls and under walls and all sorts of sort of ninja style training. And then also what has evolved is girls only programming. So, strong girls and fun fit girls and fit boys as well. Yeah. So we've got two sort of girls and boys programs. And so it's grown. So there's sort of something for everyone in terms of what to take. And then on top of that, we've expanded our age groups. So what started as 2 age groups, now we have introduced an earlier age group. So the preschooler age, which is our Mighty Minis, which is 3 to 5 year olds. They're getting in there and they're running and they're jumping and they're hanging and they're climbing and they're having fun and they're moving and they're starting to learn, basic life skills. And then they grow up into the next age group, which we have as 6 to 9 year olds. And then the next age group is 10 to 14 year olds. And then that segment itself has split apart, because that is the bulk of our membership is between ages 10 to 14 for many reasons. And then also the skill level, because some of those 10-year-olds have been doing this for 5 or 6 years. And some of these 10-year-olds are brand new to it. And so we were trying to, challenge both. We were in a position to be able to offer sort of a more advanced class and then sort of an introductory class. And then from there, the teen segment. So that's sort of a nutshell of the program.
Yeah, it's diversity. Ultimately, we know, different than adults, kids mature at different rates. Their physical development is different. Their maturity levels are different. Their backgrounds are very, very broad and different. And we definitely found we just needed to really have enough diversity in offerings to meet the needs of the customer, ultimately, of the kids.
Yeah.
And but again, it evolves over time,
yes.
And it evolves as the need demonstrates it's required. So
yeah, like what we had when we first opened versus today looks very different. And I'm sure, down the road, it's going to look different to today. Like we kind of grow and evolve with what the needs are, what the membership base. When we first started, our kids segment, so ages 6 to 9, was the bulk of our membership. But now the bulk is 10 to 14. So we had
because they've all grown
They
up.
grew up, right? Good retention.
Yeah.
And from a pricing standpoint, that was again something we learned. We had some fails, and some successes. I think the biggest thing for pricing, and how do you look at demonstrating value? Is like there's many, and we've encountered many folks that fall into this trap of devaluing their kids' program by what they charge. The kids are half the size, so do they charge half the amount? Well, ultimately, if you really think about it, the fixed expenses are common, the cost of coaching is common, and so too should be the pricing. Now, I'm not to say that we are on a one-to-one pricing equity with the adult side of it. Mm-hmm. There are market conditions, there's competitive variables that you got to factor into it. But we made a consensus decision early on to, probably have a higher price point than comparable kids programming within our community. And it has proven to be absolutely zero barrier in growth, primarily because, to your point, they're getting a tremendous value on the floor. They're creating a tremendous relationship of trust. And I think ultimately that's what parents want. They want a great product, and it's a reasonable price, but it's not off price. It's not devaluing the brand. It's not devaluing the program. And that's been really, really important. The only other thing, when we were talking about this, if I convey a message, is really an interesting exercise. When we first started, we looked at our program offerings So we had our program offerings, but then we had our membership offerings as well. So how do you look at it? And we had these like different variables of offerings for multiple times a week, etc. And so we had 1 time, 2 time, 3 times a week, unlimited, those types of things. And what we found is we actually had too much choice. We were kind of splitting our demos, and we couldn't ultimately have a real predictive assessment of where people are going to go. Or how do we even, from a growth perspective, how do you graduate people up? So we made a decision probably about 2 years in to remove the 3 times a week membership. And what that ultimately did was we had a big segment of people, and the risk was if you remove that, then you're going to actually lose money because people are going to go down. But the opposite happened. I think 90% of our membership ultimately went up to unlimited. So not only was their immersion in our brand and in our community enhanced and elevated because they're going to use it, it also financially was in the better interest. So it's just a really interesting derivative of creating a program that is having enough breadth to really connect with a number of people.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, and then over the course of time, we've had lots that came to our once-a-week membership pricing program because they were in a million other activities. And then depending on where they are in their life stage, then they bumped up to unlimited because we had the availability in the classes that they could come to all the classes that they wanted. So there's a lot of movement where they might come in as a once-a-week member and then they bump up to an unlimited member based on either the season or what life stage they're at.
Sure. Could you kind of tell us what the membership options are? And because I remember this is a point from our call, because you used to do, I think, all punch cards. And then what that was, you said was one of the kind of the bigger takeaways was when you guys actually went to memberships.
Yeah.
Could you kind of give us the overview?
That was the major turning point for the business. Yeah. When we started, probably the first year and a half, 2 years, it's a year and a half, I guess. Yeah. We were session based. We were session based primarily because, and I think they're like 8-week sessions. Session based because that's how it had always been. That's how the program had been before we had expanded, and it was also what all the other kids programs within our community, be it basketball, be it hockey, be it swimming, whatever the sport or activity might be, they're always time domained and they're basically session driven. That was proved to be very difficult from a predictive perspective, from a cash flow management perspective. I'm sure everybody can appreciate getting all the money up front and then having a float over the course of time is not necessarily the easiest of activities when your expenses are ongoing. And ultimately, what was also happening is at the end of every 8-week session, we were essentially starting over again because there was a finality to it. And kids would go off to do the next activity, or the parents just wouldn't get around to renewing them, or all sorts of different reasons. So we made the decision to shift, and we went to membership based. And it became a monthly reoccurring membership, and then also a pass card derivative that would be able to support those that truly can't commit on a monthly, but are high volume users. That was the game changer for us, for sure, unequivocally, because it allowed us to have consistent cash flow on a monthly recurring basis, predictive. It also allowed us to have numbers and targets against which we could work for growth, or if there is shrinkage, we could actually assess what was going to happen in real time versus kind of hoping and seeing what would happen every couple of months. And then the pass card, it became an easy point of entry, which we could then ultimately graduate people into a monthly reoccurring. The monthly reoccurring transitioned so many kids, and as Jackie said, they may start as a once a week because they're doing 17 different activities, and then realize they actually don't like a whole lot of those activities, or the parents realize that they're getting more value out of us, so it's easier for them to join our facility, and they go to 2 and then unlimited. And those kids that were doing it as a sort of a complementary activity dropped their other sports, and it became their sport. And that's this whole idea of fitness as a sport really was able to ingrain itself in our brand and in our gym when we didn't put an end date on their experience.
Mm-hmm.
So we've had 6-year members, 7-year members. Like it's and those are the ones that are the most interesting, because they're growing up within your walls, and you're seeing them grow from, and little kids who are doing little kid stuff to young adults, and it's super cool to see that. And that never would have happened if we had not made that shift.
I love it. Yeah, I mean, so much to learn here from you guys. This is great. Now, speaking of the different age groups, are there more popular age groups that you've seen over the years? You said it's kind of shifted for you guys, particularly, and I think it's probably because you've been keeping a lot of your people around for a long time. But just overall, if someone's starting out and they're like, well, where's a good place to start? Maybe I can't do 5 different classes.
Right. So I have a couple answers for that. If anyone is starting a kids program, start with the age group you're most comfortable with. So when I first started, I was all about they had to be smaller than me. So they needed to be little. I didn't want them to talk back. I wanted to be silly. So I wanted to start with a small age group. But that being said, that 10 to 14-year-old age group is very interesting, because those are the ones who have, in most cases, gone through that trial period of trying all their sports, and they either found it and participated in it for years and have hit a ceiling if they didn't go competitive or elite or what have you, but they still are athletes and they still want something to sort of fill that need. So that's why that age group is so interesting and is a bit more robust than the others in our membership. But also for those who have gone through the variety pack and haven't found their sport, like Stewart said, this is for them. That is also the age for them, because again, they've kind of gone through the trial period earlier in life. And then also there's just that natural growing up, where if you've started a program at age 3 and then they're still there at 6 and they're still there at 10, then they're constantly growing into that age group.
Yeah, the one thing I'd add to it is you have to be somewhat reflective of your own existing member base, right? Mm-hmm. So, certain gyms skew very young, based off where they're located. Certain gyms skew a little bit older, a little bit more mature. In our instance, our starting base was a more mature gym with members who are at that age that they actually have children. Versus, so that our starting point was leveraging the existing community that had children, and then it quickly expanded to to kids and members that whose parents aren't necessarily associated on the adult side. But the starting point was really dialed into this segment whose kids happen to be within that sort of younger age demo. If you're a young gym or a more university-based town type of thing, well, the likelihood is you're not going to have a ton of members with kids that are, 10, 14.
Yeah.
As a starting point, you can obviously go around and start to attract and acquire, but as a starting point, be reflective of your own gym and then really focus in on sort of the need, because it all starts with the need of what's within the doors, and then you apply that need because it exists outside the doors.
Awesome. So let's see here. So we've got, let me see. Okay. So let me ask you this. What are you guys doing? So speaking of kind of finding people outside of the gym, right? What are some of the ways that you bring new kids into your gym, and how might that differ from how a gym typically finds new members?
So like Stewart just mentioned, when we first started, it was all about, the existing community and getting the kids of the current members in. That was successful, but not, it didn't have as far reach. And
Sure.
So we did start, brainstorming, coming up with different ideas, and our acquisition changes based on the time of year and where we are in our business. But we've done, really what's been successful for us is a lot of grassroots community outreach. I mean, because we're all small business owners and gym owners, that we can talk the same talk, right? When we're talking to another local business, and in the local community. So specific examples, a local Santa Claus parade, literally setting up a float. We've got kids holding PVC pipes with lollipops on the end, and they're walking down the street, and so they see Firepower Kids brand, and they're like, oh, what is this all about? So connecting through events like Santa Claus Parade. We've done a lot of warm-ups. So they would ask Firepower Kids to come, or we would reach out to, say, a local family fun run, a 1 kilometer, 3 kilometer, 5 kilometer race. We'd come in and do the warm-up for the community. They'd see who we are. We'd bring some kids along in t-shirts, and they'd be like, that's cool, that's fun, I want to know what that's all about. A lot of schools in our community are doing these health and wellness nights where they're bringing in all sorts of specialists and experts in health and wellness. So we would come in and set up a little interactive station in the gymnasium, and kids and parents would come and get involved in those. Those are sort of the grassroots. But then the other thing is we want their friends. Like, it's way more fun to work out with your friend. So we're constantly inviting current kids to bring their friend, and a first class is always free. So there's no commitment. They can come in, join their friend, do a workout, and then if they like it, then we start talking to parents about, signing them up. If they're still not sure and they're like, oh, maybe I want to try the girls class, and then maybe I want to try ninja training, then they try both classes and decide maybe it's both. Okay, then on the business side, we've just secured them in potentially a 2 times a week membership or an unlimited membership. So, the first trial, the first time always free, has been the most successful, in addition to sort of all the grassroots style.
The idea of how do you attract a kids member versus an adult member is my belief, and that what we put forward is that the principles of acquisition are the same. The audience is different, the message is different. You have to be able to demonstrate that the value to the parent for their child, the trust. This idea of referral is massively important. Having transparency is incredibly important. So ensuring that your websites and your channels are absolutely available with information, so that people, this day and age, everybody does an extensive amount of homework. They shop around. Those that don't have transparency, what's my pricing, and not hide behind, call me and I'll tell you. Those are the types of little subtleties that help to create trust. And then obviously a positive floor experience creates massive referral. And it's the word of mouth. It doesn't happen overnight, but if you do all those sort of grassroots types of activities, mix it with a really solid member experience, and then demonstrate transparency, it's sort of that magic formula.
Now, on that same kind of thread, what have you seen be the most effective retention strategies for keeping kids engaged? Right? Because obviously, when it comes to the marketing side, I think you're really marketing to the parents, right? Because the kids aren't necessarily looking at advertisements or whatnot. We're targeting the parents, right? But when it comes to retention, I think it's all about, the kids and turning them into raving fans, and making them fall in love with it. So what have you guys seen be most effective there?
Yeah, it's all about, making that experience on the floor memorable and successful in so many ways. The quality of the instruction has to be top notch. So our coaches and our staff have to know what they're talking about and deliver, a great coaching experience. But what trumps that is it's got to be fun. Like, it has to be fun. And who really wants to sit there and do burpees for an hour? Like, that isn't fun. But if we can make it fun, like, you got to bounce off of lava rocks for an hour, then they might think it's fun. And fun is going to be different for each age group and each type of class. And so that is very key to keeping them, because if they're having such a blast and not realizing how hard they're working, and they get to hang out with their friends, they want to keep coming back for more fun, even though we all know they're learning life skills, they're learning proper movement, they're learning how to stay in shape and be healthy, they're learning how to communicate and teamwork and all these other things. But it's fun on the floor. The other thing is to make sure that they feel successful. So there, there's praise and there's a positive environment, but there's also challenging them. So, as we get older, as the kids get older into the teenage or even the preteen, we want to challenge them. So, we can be a little less silly and be a little bit more serious, but we can still be lighthearted and challenging them either through the workouts, with partners, with teams. Those are the types of things that has really kept our members with us, and also inviting friends and family to join as well.
Yeah.
Excellent.
I agree. Yeah.
What are some of the additional revenue streams that you can implement with the youth vertical?
So we have, on top of just regular memberships, we actually kickstarted our program with summer camps way back in the day. And so our summer camps have been a really profitable additional revenue stream for us. So we've got 9 weeks of summer camps where the kids come in all day for full weeks, and we've created different themes each week for our summer camps. It's all revolving around the idea of being active and having fun through fitness. But we have special themes like a circus theme, a CrossFit theme, a ninja theme. We have a junior firefighter training theme where they literally are training all week to become a firefighter. And at the end of the week, they make a lunch for the hall, and all the firefighters from our community come in. And then after lunch, they are actually put through a firefighter challenge. And then they get their certificate, and then they're done. So, those camps have been super successful for us. And kids will come to us in the summer camp and not have any clue that we actually have classes reoccurring all year. So then they end up staying on through our regular season when they've just come to us through a summer camp. In addition to summer camps, birthday parties. Parents are always looking for something unique and also something that's going to tire their kids out. And so we check, do both. So birthday parties, when school's out, there's PA day camps, after school program. So we did start an after school program. And what else?
The one thing I'll say about the additional revenue streams, it's really, really important, because when you think of a kids program, kids are outside of the camp hours. During the school year, they're in class virtually all day. So you have this facility that's kind of just sitting there with open time, and then you ultimately have to maximize as much as you can, the 3:30, 4 o'clock onward into the evening times. So these additional revenue streams really help to offset some of those down periods that an adult facility doesn't necessarily have to struggle with, because they have members who are constantly flowing throughout the day. You talk about birthday parties. I think on average, people are always blown away by it, but on average, I think we're on an annual basis anywhere between 50 to 75. I think one year we topped out at just under 90 birthday parties in a year. And when you look, I know it seems crazy, right? But one, it's great from an employee retention standpoint, because you're giving your coaches additional hours, and in those types of programs, you don't necessarily need the highly certified coaches. This is where you can employ some of your younger demo and the teens of the community, because it's really about engagement and just and youth monitoring. But when we tally up all of our incrementals, it actually equates to somewhere between around 35% of our total revenue comes from things that are not part of our regular reoccurring principal offering. So it becomes a very meaningful part of our business on an ongoing basis.
Yeah, so Stewart mentioned that we had to get creative in terms of the downtime. So camps was summer daytime hours, weekends is birthday parties. Where we found dead time was daytime when the kids were in school. So it was I got lucky, but I know a lot of communities that I've spoken to have gone and searched for this group is a homeschool group. So there are so many homeschooled children out there that either have a physical education component that maybe isn't as structured, or they don't have one at all. And so we've offered a physical education component to their curriculum, to their homeschool curriculum, where we have a number of homeschool families that come in once or twice a week. And it's also social time for them, and they get their physical activity in. So that has been really remarkable, because it's all ages. That's not just an age group. That's like, you've got 3-year-olds and 17-year-olds in there. But talk about, leadership training, and team building in that group. I highly recommend reaching out to that if you're looking for something for daytime. And in addition, we've got school groups, like buses will show up, unload the kids. We do some school group training. They get on the bus, they go back, and doing the same thing through the summer with different camps. Other camps will come to us for some additional experiences.
Love it. Now, you mentioned coaches. I imagine finding the right coaches for your kids' programs is imperative, right? It's we get away with even less with that with kids than we do, say, with adult programs. What kind of tips do you guys have for finding the right people to bring on?
So yeah, coaching kids takes a special human being. You've got to be patient and creative, but full of energy, but also skilled and responsible. And so we, again, like, our communities are amazing sources. So we look at our community members, like current CrossFitters, gym goers, and members, parents. A lot of our community are educators, high school and elementary, who are school teachers. Though, that's sort of the core of where we started to look and who we have today. But what also is starting to transpire, depending on the age of the kids program, is our kids that started as, say, a 10-year-old are now 16 years old. And so they're starting to be our coaches. Someone who started with us, at the age of 15 is now in their 20s. So they are in university and they are our coaches. So we've got kids that have grown up to become coaches, but then we also have community members that we've reached out to lead the charge on the floor.
Yeah, and I think, on the coaching side of it, it's as much as we have the responsibility to and an opportunity to really influence the kids on the floor, we also see it as an opportunity to help mentor and engage and help, our coaches, really thrive as well and learn and grow and become just, better prepared for whatever comes next for them. So, we take them seriously. We take their development seriously. We hold them to high expectation, as I'm sure everybody should. But honestly, it's as rewarding to see some of our coaches, grow and succeed and become sort of real, true successes, as much as it is for the children.
100%.
Love it. Now, all right, so pop quiz. If you guys were having to, let's say you had a traditional facility set up, very similar like when you started, right, where you were actually having to share the floor with regular classes, how would you start that program? Like, how would you get that off of the ground if we've got your traditional, say, CrossFit gym environment where we've got a few classes in the morning, a few classes in the afternoon and evening? Where would you begin? Time slots and, just how would you do it?
Yeah, that's a great question, and ultimately is the ongoing dilemma and the battle, quite honestly, for floor space. Well, kids, as we said earlier, they have a finite availability. You can either really focus in on weekends because they have more breadth, but then you may be competing with all sorts of other things that are conflicting. When within the day to select, I think that's sort of a very specific personal situation based off of each's gym's member base, their users, etc. But the one thing I think Jackie and I wholeheartedly believe in is if you're going to run successfully a kids program on a shared space, you have to try to respect the kids' time slot as much, probably more than you even have to give it any consideration. This idea of running a kids program and then still allowing adults to be on the peripheral doing their own thing, in our experience, that doesn't set the kids program up for success. Beyond just the safety variables of barbells bouncing around or dumbbells thrown or adults run up and down, adults are known to get emotional and speak poor language or have poor music choices. But beyond that, it's a major distraction. It's a major distraction for the kids who you need to have them dialed in and focused. What has made our business successful is that when kids walk in our door, they know it's their space. They know it belongs to them. As Jackie said earlier, it looks and smells and feels different.
It smells like shit.
I don't know what the smell is.
Snacks.
It smells better than an adult smells.
That's funny.
Yeah, exactly. But that gives them a feeling of safety. It gives them a feeling of ownership. So you have to try to recreate that in a shared space. Don't let adults zip around and be doing things on the side. You talk about trust and you talk about parents really wanting to know that their kids are looked after and safe. Well, you have sort of like these randoms walking around watching kids work out. Well, that doesn't necessarily always make parents who don't know those folks feel good about it. I often say to Jackie, you see at many gyms, kids are, during an adult class, kids are, stay over here, stay in the lounge, stay, off the floor. But we don't apply that same methodology to adults. Our belief is if you're going to run a kids class, pen up the adults, allow them to watch, because often we find they learn a lot about teamwork. They learn a lot about effort and perseverance by watching the kids.
Yeah.
But treat the kids as a priority and not as a secondary. And I think that is the biggest message if you have to share a space.
Mm-hmm.
Great advice. I would second that. The little experience that I had running a kids program out of my facility, which we only did for, I'd say 2 seasons really. That was exactly that, would be exactly that same thing, is that it needs to be dedicated. It's the entire gym is there during that time period. It helps them keep, like you said, the focus thing is one of the biggest challenges, right? Is, kids are, it's like squirrel, they're going the other direction every second. So if there's someone dropping weights or bumping Dr. Dre and they're hearing bad words or whatever it is, it's like it's not going to fare well. Not to mention parents
and
are
what, like a lot of I've spoken to some gym owners that are nervous about equipment and that kids are going to touch the equipment. Truthfully, if you just sort of give the ground rules, get the kids to make up the ground rules, like, oh, I can't, hit so and so, oh, I can't touch that. Yes, like the rules, and once you just repeat the rules, the kids will know they can't touch certain things. Obviously, there's some things that gym owners can do to make it safer. You can put up, netting, you can put up signs, you can put some things away, but also just communicating ground rules also gives them some ownership in terms of their gym. Like, oh, I can go here and I can do that, and I can go there when the coach says. So there's ways to work around it.
Love it. Now, what would you think is most important to know if someone is considering starting a kids program?
Most important to know.
Or consider.
It's a lot of work.
Yeah.
But it's worth it. So, I think you have to do your homework, understand your market. You have to, speak to your existing community. If you're an owner that has kids and your kids are in activities, do informal surveys in terms of the appetite for this type of offering within your respective community itself. Map it out, have a plan, and have confidence. A lot of people try it and abandon it because it doesn't necessarily take off right away. which I get, and there are many realities that require that. But if you truly believe in it, and if you've done the homework and the planning in advance, you know, believe in yourself and believe in what it can do, because it will work. It just some are faster than others. So like, you know, just be committed to it, I guess.
Yeah, I do second that, like, do the due diligence and the planning. At the same time, I think simultaneously, just start coaching kids. You don't have to start with a program of 10 or 20 kids. You can start with coaching 2 kids. That way you'll learn a lot about coaching, your coaching style, the space, how they react. Maybe they'll want to bring a friend next time, and now you've got 4 kids. You can just start coaching kids, because as you're coaching, that's where you learn the most. You know, when I think about when I started coaching to how I am today, I've just gone through a huge growth in terms of what I know, confidence level, and also just like floor experiences with them, as do all coaches coaching anything, right? You just gain confidence and knowledge as you go through that journey.
Love it. All right, guys. Final question for the day. In one sentence, if you could give one piece of advice to a gym owner, what would it be?
I'll answer it because I'm the emotional one. So yeah, it is. Just invest in kids. You know, the saying goes that they are our future, and we as gym owners are teaching squats and deadlifts and presses. We are teaching so much more to our kids. So you're teaching life skills, and we're shaping maybe one child's life. Maybe even better, you're shaping a whole bunch of children's lives. So invest in your kids.
Well said. Stewart, Jackie, thank you guys so very much for coming up, or taking the time and coming on the show and sharing your story and lessons learned and everything. I know this is going to help a lot of people out there, because we've had a lot of questions about how to do this and how to do this well. And I think you guys brought a ton of value to our audience. So thank you guys for doing so. And I wish you guys the very best of luck as you guys continue on your journey.
Thank you.
Where can people find more about you and or get in contact with you guys?
Absolutely. If there's comments or questions, you can definitely put them in the comments section of this broadcast. Check us out on online at on Facebook or Instagram, Firepower Kids, or just send us a note. You know, Jackie at Firepower Kids. I'll send it to her because she's, and then she'll forward it to me. But mine is Stewart at Firepower Kids. So it's not all that difficult to figure out. But hey, look, we love talking about this stuff. We love sharing our insights, our successes, and more importantly, the things that we have been less successful at. And there's many of those things. So, happy to help anybody who's, going through this journey.
Well, again, you guys are amazing for coming on and for having built what you built. I'm legitimately jealous, and it's probably one of the programs I would love to start here in my local community, because, having been someone who was a gym owner before having kids, and then having kids while I was a gym owner, and just seeing that shift in myself when I would have never thought that a kids program would have been of interest to me. And I would have probably made the same mistakes, thinking I'm going to undervalue this and it's just a side program and all of the things, because we're so focused on, the world we know. Right. Yep. But it completely changes when you have your own kids and you see how important it is, and you see the opportunity to make the impact. And, and if you're in business, you see the opportunity to maybe make a great living, making a serious impact. Your program, you can sleep well at night because the depth of the value that you're bringing to these kids' lives and their families and their future families and all that stuff. So again, thank you guys for what you do, and thanks for coming on today.
Thank you, Marcus.
My pleasure. And also, I want to thank all of you motivated gym owners out there for joining us today. And if you are interested in learning how we can help you grow your gym, simply visit gymwright.com, schedule a free strategy session today, and I would love to chat with you about where you're at, where you're trying to go, and see if we can help you. Also, if you'd like to watch this show live, you can join the conversation right here in the network every Friday at 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. Thank you again for your support. Now get out there and build something that matters. We'll see you again next week. Bye-bye.